Hey friends, how are you guys doing today? I hope you're doing so well and welcome back to another video. Are you thinking about selling your stuff online but you don't know where to start? You don't know what platform to choose? You don't know what is the pros of selling on one platform versus selling on another one? There's so many platforms out there. There's eBay, there's Mercari, there's Poshmark, there's Facebook Marketplace, there's Amazon. There's so many things out there and it's hard to know where to begin. So today's video is for you. We're gonna break down all of the different top reselling platforms and then which one is going to be best for you. And not all marketplaces are the same. Some are better for clothing, some are better for electronics, some have lower selling fees, some have easier shipping processes than others. So it really depends on what you're selling and what you want to sell your items for. And then also what audience you're looking at is going to determine what marketplace you're gonna sell on. But by the end of this video, you guys will know exactly where to list your items. So I'm an experienced reseller. I sell full time. I'm on eBay, Poshmark, Mercari, whatnot, and Depop. And I've sold on basically any platform you can think of. I've probably sold on it and have some experience selling on. So we're gonna break down the major marketplaces. We're gonna break down their pros and cons, and then we're also gonna talk about who the ideal seller is for each of the platforms. So if that sounds good to you guys, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and the thumbs up, because we're gonna jump into it. So let's start off with a heavy hitter, eBay. eBay is one that I didn't start off selling on. I started off selling on Poshmark, and eBay was kind of frightening to me. It looked like it was gonna be very hard, but the more and more I sell on eBay, the more and more I fall in love with it, and I feel like it's actually a lot easier than at first it might seem. Now, eBay is going to be best for electronics, collectibles, vintage items, and anything with a niche market, because also eBay has the largest global buyer base. So the most people of any seller platform are going to be on eBay versus another one that's smaller, like say Mercari. You're gonna have a wider audience on eBay, and so it's gonna be easier to find a person to buy selling in a niche market. So the pros, the huge global audience, that it has flexible pricing, and this is something that is gonna be more unique to just eBay, in that you can list something for a fixed price, which is pretty much across the board. You list something for a price and that's what you expect to get. But eBay also gives you the option to auction your items off. And I feel like this is really what eBay was really known for in the beginning when it started. And even like, I feel like even like 10 years ago, I didn't think so much about things that were listed for a set price, but auctions. And that gives you flexibility, right? So if you don't know what to price something at, you can always auction it off. You can set your lowest floor of what you would like to accept, and then you can see what the market is dictating for the price of the item. So that's another nice thing about eBay, is that you can always do an auction. And I like the idea of auctions, and I think that they can be really helpful, especially in different situations where you have a more unique item and you don't have a lot of comps to look at for that item. So, and another pro is that it has low listing fees. So until you sell something, you don't normally need to pay very much money. And then there's variable final value fees, which can be a con as well, in that you don't always know exactly how much you're going to have to pay per item, and it kind of varies depending on the price of what you sell an item at. But another con is that it can be very competitive. There's a lot of sellers on eBay. There's a lot of competition out there, and that fees can add up, especially if you're doing promoted listings, which is something that eBay offers. You can promote your listings, and depending on what percentage you promote your listings at, you can promote your listings and then eBay will move them up in the search results. But then if you're promoting them at a rate of 2%, they can also make 2% of whatever you sell your item for. And so it's very easy for you to have final value fees and have a listing fee, have a promoted listing fee, and just have those fees stack up. And so before you know it, sometimes it's like, oh, I've lost like 30% of my sale. It just depends on what things you're allowing to happen on your eBay listings, but it can stack up and become pretty expensive. But it's kind of, you have to weigh the pros and cons. You have to weigh the balance of what's worth it for you. So in conclusion, eBay is best for people selling a variety of items, collectibles, or even bulk inventory. It's really easy to have a bulk quantity, and I feel like things move really quickly if you have a bulk quantity as well. So that's what eBay is best for, and I love eBay. Next up, we're gonna talk about Poshmark. Poshmark is where I started off reselling, and it's one that I really started reselling in because I sell mostly clothing and accessories, and that's what Poshmark is kind of known for. It's best for designer and mid-tier clothing, shoes, and accessories. So you see on eBay that you can have way more than just clothing. You see action figures, you see car parts. Like my dad will go on to eBay to buy a car part. But Poshmark, that's not as common. It's usually more like clothing and shoes and things like that. So the pros of this is that it's kind of an easy to use social selling feature. So things that you recognize from other social media things like Facebook and Instagram, it's kind of that same kind of vibe. It's almost like a social media platform and a selling platform at the same time. And so that is kind of an easier interface that a lot of people have recognized it and they know how to use something like that. And so that's nice. And then another pro for me especially is just knowing for sure that there's a flat fee structure. So anything over $15 that sells on Poshmark has a 20% commission. So you pay 20% of whatever you sell the item at. That's just it. There's no listing fee. There's no final value fee. There's not all these variabilities. They have started doing promoted closets and promoting your listings. I don't do that, and I don't think I would recommend that on Poshmark, especially until they've had more time with doing that to work out all the kinks. I don't do that on Poshmark. I would do that on eBay. I wouldn't do it on Poshmark, but that is something that I think is a pro, is that we just know exactly how much you will make from an item. If you accept an offer for an item at $50, you know you're gonna make $40 and there's just no guesswork. That is very nice. Makes it a little bit easier. And also a huge pro for selling on Poshmark is that the shipping is handled for you. So on eBay, when you sell something, you are in charge of putting in your item dimensions and all these different things, and then weighing your item and printing off your label and picking what service you wanna use. On Poshmark, literally, as soon as the item sells, that piece's shipping label will be sent directly to your email. So you don't have to worry about what to put it in. You can use the provided USPS priority mail supplies. You don't have to buy your own boxes. The shipping part of Poshmark is so incredibly easy, and that is so nice. So that's a great pro for Poshmark. Con, that the fees, even though that they are set, they are higher than a lot of other platforms. So you have to pay for that security and knowing exactly how much you're going to lose from a sale on Poshmark because it is a higher fee. And then also it requires active engagement on Poshmark. So you have to share your listings on Poshmark, and this is the only platform that's like this. It's the social media aspect of this, right? Is that in order for your items to be seen, you have to keep on sharing them, which is really annoying. I have a bot that does this for me. I used to do this by hand for hours a day, and then I was just like, at some point I can't do it. It automatically shares my closet for me, and I can use it to send out offers. Super handy, super nice. I have a link for that always in the description down below. But if you were doing that by hand, that's a big con. That would be really hard. So Poshmark itself is best for fashion resellers, people that are decluttering their closets and want to just list something, and also boutique sellers. You can sell boutique items on there as well. So if you had a boutique of clothing, it'd be so easy to just list up one piece and have a set quantity, and it would do really well, I feel like, on Poshmark. But the nice thing is you don't have to choose just one, and I think that's going to be the takeaway as well from all this is maybe use this to figure out what platforms you want to sell on, but you don't want to just sell on one platform. And so I'm so grateful, and thank you so much to Vendoo for sponsoring this portion of today's video. Vendoo is a cross-listing platform, and they really have helped me so much in my business and helped so many of you guys too. I hear from you guys all the time. Once you try Vendoo, you're like, I can't go back. Vendoo allows you to list things on more than one selling platform. So I started off as just a Poshmark reseller, and then I started using Vendoo, took my items from Poshmark into Vendoo, and then cross-listed them to eBay and Mercari, and I even cross-listed into Depop. And now at this point in my selling career, I list directly into Vendoo, and then from there, with just a few clicks of a button, listed on like 4 or 5 different reselling platforms. So you're gonna see, even though there's some different pros and cons for why you should list on one place versus another, when you list on multiple platforms, your sales actually exponentially increase because there's different people on different platforms, right? So maybe this will help you pick which platforms you want to sell on. Maybe there's 2 or 3 platforms you want to sell on, but Vendoo is such an easy way to be able to sell on all those platforms. And they also have the automatic sales detection and delist feature, which has literally changed my life. I wasn't reselling on multiple platforms. I wasn't cross-listing because I was scared that if I sold something on Poshmark, I wouldn't take it down from eBay. Then I get a mark on my account, and then I lose my eBay account. Instead, now Vendu will recognize when something sells and take it down from your other platforms, which is a game changer. So down below in the description box, I always will have a link for you guys for Vendu, and it gives you 25% off of your first month. You have to follow that link in order to get that little discount on your month as well. And thank you so much for following that link and for checking out my video sponsors. It really does support my channel. So thank you again to Vendu for working with me on today's video. But now let's talk about the next reselling platform, which is Mercari. So Mercari is best for easy selling and it has low fees. It's best for electronics, home goods, toys, clothing, and shoes. So a little bit more niched down, I feel like, than eBay, but a little bit wider than Poshmark, right? So the pros are that it's a simple listing process and they do have lower selling fees. Right now it's at 10% commission. It was at 0% commission. Before that it was at 20% commission. And it's similar to Poshmark in that a shipping label is provided for you. When you list something, you choose which shipping service you're going to utilize for shipping out the item. You put in its weight, but as soon as that item sells, then that shipping label is also downloadable and they can email it to you, and then you have that right away. You can't use the priority mail shipping supplies that are free from the post office like you can for Poshmark unless you pick priority mail while you're shipping on Mercari, which is more expensive and buyers will not want to pick that. Then you're not able to use the priority mail shipping supplies. I often don't do that. I usually use the UPS SurePost on Mercari, and that means though that I have to use my own shipping supplies. So there's an added cost when you sell something on Mercari versus on, say, Poshmark. So then the cons of this platform is that it's a lower buyer base compared to eBay. There's a lot more people on eBay than there are on Mercari, and I feel like even in the more recent history, I feel like we've been losing a lot of Mercari buyers and they're moving to other platforms. So I've been feeling like Mercari, at least for me, has been dying compared to a lot of other selling platforms. And there's also no local selling option on Mercari. You have to ship items. So especially for something like electronics or something more heavy, there's no local pickup option, which they do have a local pickup option for other platforms like eBay. You can choose that. So Mercari, I would say, is best for casual sellers who want a hassle-free experience. So if you're gonna be a full-time reseller, Mercari is probably not your best #1 platform to have. And there's exceptions to every rule, guys. Don't hear me saying don't sell Mercari. But I do think on the whole, it is best for casual sellers and people that want just an easier experience compared to something like eBay. So next up is Depop. It's best for vintage and streetwear items. So it's best for trendy, vintage, and streetwear clothing. And the pros of this are really that you kind of know exactly who your audience is on Depop, that it's popular with Gen Z and younger buyers. And so if you're trying to sell like, like a very a tailored suit or something like workwear going to the office wear, it's not gonna do probably very well on Depop. You're looking more at like trendier or vintage pieces. And then another pro of using Depop is that it has lower fees. Right now it's at a 10% commission while I'm filming this. And it's also a pro that it's kind of like an Instagram style interface for easy selling. And this younger generation that's really used to Instagram and to things like that, where they can just scroll and see pieces like in the images, like on an Instagram feed. It connects with them, right? It makes sense to them. A Poshmark is kind of also a sort of a social media-esque app, but it's definitely more of like a Facebook looking app than Depop, which is more like an Instagram, more like aesthetically appealing for a younger audience. Does that make sense? So it's also a double-edged sword. It's a pro that you know exactly who your audience is, that it's Gen Z and younger buyers, but it's also a con in that it's a limited audience. It's mostly younger buyers. And while there are some younger buyers that will spend a really good amount of money on pieces, there's also a lot of young buyers that don't have the money to spend on these extravagant vintage pieces. So there's always exceptions to the rule, but it is a con that the audience is lower on Depop than it would be on some of these other platforms. And another con is you can't just throw up any picture on Depop and hope that your item sells. I feel like the people that do the best on Depop, they really have good branding for their closets, they have good branding for their shop, and they also have good photography. That one, I feel like you have to be really intentional about making your closet, your little shop, actually look nice and stand out and be kind of like, cohesive. It can't just be like crazy random pictures. Having a cohesive looking shop is really, really helpful on Depop. So in conclusion, for Depop, this is best for trendy sellers and those flipping unique fashion pieces. So if you have something unique, I would be putting it up on Depop. I feel like that would be a great place to sell it. Okay, now we're on to Facebook Marketplace. Facebook Marketplace is best for local sales and it also has no fees, which is super nice. So I would say it's best for selling furniture, home goods, electronics, and local items. This isn't necessarily where I want to be listing 20 billion pieces of clothing and shipping out from. This, for me, seems so much better when you're selling a large item, a furniture piece, something like that. If you were making items and they were larger, this is where I would be listing my items. So for local sales, there's no selling fees, right? They just help you meet up with somebody else that's going to be buying your item. So it's nice that you're not paying a 20% commission fee to Facebook Marketplace. It has a large audience. Almost everyone you know is on Facebook and knows what Facebook Marketplace is. Super nice. You're not downloading a new app. It's just part of something that people are already using. And then it's also instant transactions with no shipping required. And there are places on Facebook Marketplace where you can ship items and people buy items from Facebook Marketplace. But it's nice that you instantly are getting paid. You're instantly getting rid of the item. The cons on this are there's always a scammer. It feels like there's always a scammer or an unreliable buyer. Somebody's like, yes, I love this piece. I'm coming today, and then they don't show up. So like, that's the thing. It's nice on some of the other platforms that they have a process where they process the card for you. Like, you know, you're getting paid. And then sometimes on Facebook Marketplace, somebody's just like going to ghost you. And then the other con for that is that you have to handle meetups and payments yourself. If you have social anxiety, sometimes Facebook Marketplace can be a real trip. It's a little bit different. You're gonna have to probably meet face-to-face or have a porch pickup, or, you know, there's a lot of different things that you have to handle yourself, and negotiating price with buyer one-on-one is different than doing it through an app. But for Facebook Marketplace, it's best for people selling larger items, furniture, and those who prefer local transactions. So that's really a great place to be selling things. I wouldn't be selling clothing as much probably on there. It just seems like a lot more work and a lot more back and forth with your buyers. I have not had experience selling on Amazon, but I did want to talk about it real quick for those of you that are interested in it. The Amazon FBA is best for large scale sellers, and it's best for brand new retail products, wholesale items, and private label goods. So if you were buying maybe pallets and wanting to flip those items, this would be a great place to be doing that. And the pros are that Amazon handles the shipping and the customer service of selling on Amazon FBA. And then it has a massive audience and a trusted marketplace. Like, there's not a person I know that has not bought something on Amazon or has the Amazon app and can just order from Amazon like that and know it's gonna get there. So they have a lot of trust with their marketplace. And then there's also a pro that it's a potential for high sales volume. So if you have multiple items that are all new and you have like a quantity of 25, it's nice. That's a perfect place to be selling those items. The cons are that there's higher fees because you have storage, fulfillment, and selling fees. And then they have strict seller policies, and there's a lot of competition on Amazon as well. But this is best for serious sellers who want passive income and large inventory. Because those things, you're not selling them, you're not shipping them out yourself. They're going to be with Amazon. So it's nice that you're not the one that's fulfilling those items, and it's more of like a passive income stream, which a lot of people want. So that's the people that should be on the Amazon FBA. And then Etsy is best for handmade and unique items. So it's best for handmade goods, vintage items that are 20 plus years old, and digital products. I have bought many a digital product on there as well. If you're a graphic designer on the side, like, this is where I would be selling things that would be more of like a digital thing. The pros of Etsy are that it's a niche audience for handmade and vintage items. People are looking for handmade. They're looking for usually more, they know things are gonna be more expensive when they're handmade or vintage. And there's also lower fees. So it's 6.5% transaction fee plus the listing fees on Etsy. And there's also customization and branding options for Etsy. So that's super nice too, in that if you are customizing embroidered sweatshirts, then there's options that they can fill out for wanting things embroidered and customized. Very interesting. But the cons of selling on Etsy is that it requires effort to stand out from your competition. It's very hard if you have a very similar product to somebody else to be chosen above that other product, especially if it's the same product. Very difficult, and it can be competitive on Etsy. Etsy is a very competitive marketplace, and you can see this, like, once somebody has an idea for a product, it feels like 20 other people will start selling that product as well. So this would be best though. Etsy in general, in conclusion, is best for crafters, vintage resellers, and digital product creators. So there's gonna be overlap between all of these. There might be 3 different platforms that would be really great for you to resell on. So in summary, we're gonna talk about which platforms are better for what types of sellers, Casual declutterers, people that are just casually reselling. Facebook Marketplace, Mercari, and Poshmark are great for that. I feel like Poshmark can go either way on this. It can be a casual declutter. You're gonna put 10 items in your closet, and those are things that you took from a closet declutter in your own home, but also you can sell professionally on Poshmark as well. And for other serious reselling platforms, I would say eBay, Amazon FBA, and Depop. You can really be a serious reseller on all of those platforms. Handmade and creative sellers, I would suggest you sell on Etsy. And then for local selling, you wanna do Facebook Marketplace. But again, I would encourage you to resell on different platforms, multiple platforms. If you want to hit the most people, if you want your items to get the most eyes, then you're gonna need to cross-list, and that's what I was talking about Vendu earlier about. I would highly recommend them for doing that. So then in conclusion, the best platform is going to really depend on what you're selling and what you want to do with your business. How much effort do you want to put into your business? Because that's going to determine which place you're going to sell on. I personally sell the majority of my items on eBay and Poshmark because that really fits with what I want to do. I do some live selling as well. I didn't talk about Whatnot, but there's also live selling platforms. If you want to do live selling, I would recommend Whatnot. For my business, those are the things that work best for me, but that's also because of the audience I want to reach and what I'm selling. If I was selling car parts, I would be selling on eBay, and maybe I would also be doing some Facebook Marketplace for more things that are heavier or bigger that I can sell more locally. So you have to take a look at what you're selling in your business and what platform really aligns best with what you're selling and what you want your business to look like. So what platform do you guys prefer? Which one's your favorite? Leave that in a comment down below. Which is your platform of choice? So don't forget to like and subscribe for more reselling tips, and then check out some of my other videos too if you want to learn more about reselling and also learn how to maximize your profits. And again, thank you to Vendu for sponsoring today's video. And I really do recommend them, and I do think that reselling on multiple platforms using a cross-listing software is really what can take a business to the next level for sure. So again, link is in the description for Vendu. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys are having an amazing day. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. And until the next video, bye.